And if we can engage launch control properly. Left foot hard on the brake, floor it with the right foot. No.
Please try again.
What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another comparison video. And today I'm putting my M240i against this 20-year anniversary edition VW Golf R. And the point of today's video is to see if this car that I'm sitting in right now, which is the Golf R, is a match for my M240i. Now I totally understand why for some of you this comparison might not make sense, but hear me out. Both of these cars have north of 300 horsepower, both are four-wheel driven, and because of the weight difference between the two, they have similar performance figures. And you're not gonna believe this, but these two are also quite similarly priced, unfortunately, for the Golf. But let's dive into more details about these two cars and start off with the Golf R 20-year edition. So let's expand this discussion a little bit. So the Golf R 20-year anniversary edition gets the same 2-liter turbocharged engine as the standard edition, but it can produce 333 horsepower and 420 Newton meters of torque. It also has, like I've said, a four-wheel drive system, but this is front-wheel based, meaning that essentially this car 90% of the time is a front-wheel drive, and whenever power is needed at the rear, it can send up to 50% of that power. This car also has an automatic transmission, but it is a 7-speed dual clutch one, and it is pretty fast. It's also got an array of driving modes, from comfort of course, to sport, and to two really special ones. One's called drift mode and the other is called Nürburgring mode. While the drift mode is a bit of a gimmick because this car can only send 50% of the power to the rear wheels, so it can't really drift, but it's gonna try and send 100% of that power to the outside wheel to make the back end a little bit loose and make it feel like you're drifting, and it only really works in the wet. Nürburgring mode, on the other hand, is excellent. It's the only mode I've been driving this car in, and it's spectacular. It puts the suspension into comfort mode, and then everything else is up to 11, and it is excellent. It suits this car very, very well. Now, the M240i, how does that compare to the Golf R? Well, sitting up front in that car is a 3-liter inline-six turbocharged engine that can produce 375 horsepower and 420 Newton meters of torque. So it is a bit more power than the Golf R. The BMW is also a four-wheel driven car, but it's quite different. to the Golf R. And that is because that system is essentially rear wheel biased, meaning that the car 90% of the time is a rear wheel driven car. And when the front wheels need power, that system can send up to 100% of that power. So yeah, it is quite a different driving experience. Mated to that engine is an 8-speed ZF automatic transmission. It's got a pretty standard array of driving modes: Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus, so nothing special to report there. And as you've probably noticed, I didn't really mention north to 100 kilometers per hour times because I want to test that out myself. And if you're thinking that because the BMW has a 40 horsepower advantage, it's going to destroy the Golf R, think again, because the BMW is also around 200 kilograms heavier than the Golf. So without further ado, let's time the Golf R first. Just for transparency, I'm using a GPS Race Timer app to do these timings. It's a free app, so do with that information what you will. It's what I have, but I'm using the same app for both cars, the same piece of tarmac, and the same weather conditions, because it's all happening within an hour. So let's start off with the Golf R. Now, to engage launch control in this car, you need to put the ESC system to off, put the car in sport, not race or any other driving mode. Left foot hard on the brake, right on the accelerator, launch control active, let go of the brake. Whoa, that was fast, I'm not gonna lie to you. At least it felt fast. 4.6 seconds, Jesus. And here comes the proof. 4.6 seconds. Now let's see what the M240i can do. And if we can engage launch control properly. Left foot hard on the brake. Floor it with the right foot. No. Oh, BMW with your launch control systems.
Please try again.
Okay, that felt pretty fast. Whoa, 4.6 seconds. That's identical to the Golf R. I cannot believe it. Here's proof of that. And again, this is 4.6 seconds. And it's, yeah, it is a bit drizzling outside. And this is without launch control because I'm just too dumb and I can't seem to make it work in BMWs. That's really surprising. The Golf R works every single time. It worked flawlessly from the get-go. I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but the Golf R feels like a more aggressive, a more sportier car than the BMW M240i. Never in a million years would I have thought that a Golf would be more aggressive than a two-door coupe from BMW. But here we are. It's almost as shocking as the price tag of the Golf R. But no, really, beside making them uglier than ever, across the board BMW has softened their cars. At least that's what it feels like when you're driving the latest generation. Even the new M2 feels less aggressive than my old M2 competition or M2 facelift was. It feels like my BMW was engineered to be a long-distance cruiser, a two-door long-distance cruiser with a powerful engine, while the Golf has both sides of the coin. It can do the daily stuff quite well, but at a touch of a button, the Golf transforms into a proper driver's car. Particularly in Nürburgring mode, where everything gets much more aggressive except for the suspension, which makes the ride of this car more soft, more compliant, and perfect for my favorite thing to do on a Sunday afternoon, which is B-road blasting. And they really nailed the way the Golf R handles with that suspension setup. I've mentioned already in some of my previous videos how this M240i really leans in the bends a bit too much, although it has quite a stiff suspension when you go on bumpy surfaces. The Golf also leans in the bends a bit in the soft setting of its suspension, but because of the lower weight compared to the BMW, as soon as you touch the throttle, the all-wheel drive system handles everything and you get slingshotted out of that corner at massive speeds. And with the perfect amount of lean. It all seems very well controlled. I think the M240i can't really do that because of the massive weight it has to carry around. And that coupled to the fact that the center of gravity is quite high in this car. As you can see, for some reason BMW has made this car tall, and it also has quite a big wheel gap. There's already quite a big weight transfer going on from one side to another, and by that point it's too late for the all-wheel drive system to correct things. It pains me to say it because this is my very own car, but I do think that the Golf R from factory handles better than the M240i, at least on these bumpy B roads. So it's just as fast, it handles better, and it's got a price tag to match. But I think that's where the problem is. I don't think the Golf R 20-year edition as a package is worth that kind of cash. The base price of the Golf R 20-year anniversary is around 49,000 euros in Sweden, and by the time you add the Akrapovic exhaust, the sunroof, and all the other bits and bobs on that car, you get to a whopping 54,000 euros. And when you compare interiors with my M240i, which is only 52,000 euros, you realize that the Golf has jumped up in category, but only price-wise. Let's face it, the interior of the Mark 8 Golf R has been widely criticized since it got launched, but not only for the looks, the design, but also for the ergonomics. And this 20-year anniversary edition doesn't really bring in any improvements. And yes, I know the M240i's ergonomics are also an issue, with BMW removing the physical buttons and adding those functionalities to the touchscreen, but at least they are much better implemented. But yeah, the Golf can actually carry 4 adults with ease, while my M240i can barely carry 2 kids in the back and some luggage. So there's that. So how to sum up this then? Well, I am one of the biggest fans of the latest generation Golf R. I think it's the best handling Golf that's ever been made. But it's just too much money. I think that's its biggest problem. You jump in the car, you drive it, and then you think this is a proper driver's car. But then, once you find out how much the car costs, you just start to nitpick on stuff. Because that's what you do when especially a hot hatch goes beyond the 50,000 euro price tag. The M240i is not cheap either by any means, but I personally think it delivers on the interior quality and overall tech it has big time. Plus, BMWs usually hold their value a bit better than Golfs, so customers are willing to pay more money than on other cars in that segment. It's hard to draw a conclusion here. I would still buy the M240i if given the choice between these two cars. But if you really want a fast Golf, you should probably look at the Club Sport variant of the GTI. It does 95% of the things the Golf R can do, but for 20% less money. But let me know what you think about these two cars in the comment section down below. I'm quite curious to hear your opinions. That's been it for today's video, my friends. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Please give it a thumbs up if you have, and make sure you'll subscribe for plenty more videos to come.